we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Tonight we're going to talk about Fitme plates. So I'm really excited. I love talking about Fitme plates. I want to start out by just saying that the Fitme plate started as an added challenge. The Fitme plate itself is like a perfect example of a perfectly balanced meal. So we've got protein, we've got carbs, we've got vegetables, and we've got healthy fats. And it's important for the challenge portion of it for it to all be whole food. So as close to how God created it as possible. Does that mean that having a balanced, healthy meal that is Fitme inspired is not a good choice? Absolutely not. Does that mean that we can have a meal, a healthy meal that's missing an element that, and still have a healthy meal? Yes, that is exactly what that means. So the Fitme plate is not like, let's not treat the Fitme plate as our new diet. Let's not treat it as restriction. Let's not treat it as something that like is an all or nothing thing. It is just a really good, fun way to add that extra challenge of like getting in whole foods, and getting in all of the different pieces of a meal that we need to have in order for our body to be satisfied and satiated. And it is a really good way to make sure that we're getting in enough food and calories through our day if we're having 3 Fitme plates without counting calories and without worrying about macros and all those kind of things. And so that is kind of like what I wanted to lead with, because I think a lot of times, and I'm saying this not just for the people on this phone call, but for anybody who listens back later, a lot, when Fitme was first created, Marlena and I started in Fitme, it was just the habits, and that was enough. And the plate didn't exist yet. And we were still having progress and making, really good choices and learning about food and doing all those things. The plate challenge became the plate challenge as like exactly what it says, as a challenge. And so I want to throw that out there, because I had my entire getting healthy weight loss journey previous to the Fitme plate existing. And so you can still get healthy and get strong and get fit without perfectly hitting a plate every time. It's just that like fun, like, okay, I'm going to see if I can hit 100 plates of whole foods. And like, it's that extra challenge. It's that getting you thinking about your food. And for me, it was like, what can I add to what I'm eating to get to the Fitme plate, or to get closer to a Fitme plate? So I really like that, because it's more of like, I might have fixed a plate and been like, this feels like it's missing something, or can I add something to this and make it an official Fitme plate or a Fitme inspired plate? So getting us thinking about our food, getting us acknowledging, getting curious, getting creative about how we can add to our plates and make sure that we're getting in enough vegetables, because that's the biggest thing for me when I started, was like adding vegetables to all my meals, especially breakfast. I remember how hard it was for me to add veggies to my breakfast. And now it's like, if I don't have veggies on my plate, I'm like, this plate looks weird. Like, I don't know. It's especially breakfast, because I always have something green on my plate with breakfast even. And it feels incomplete to me now. And so I think it's just getting in that rhythm of like adding, not subtracting, and making sure that we've got our protein and our carbs and our veggies and our healthy fats in the right proportions too. Because even when we're following the habits, you could eat potatoes every single day and that, all day long, for every meal, which would be within the guidelines of the habits, right? But it might not be the best thing for your body, because you need protein. You need to have a variety of vegetables. You need to make sure you have like a healthy fat in there. And so, I mean, like vice versa, you could probably throw any like diet, you could do any diet and fall inside the habits maybe, but you might not be eating enough. You might be cutting out a food group. And so it's a really fun way to incorporate everything and give our bodies everything that they need. And so I wanted to kind of open it up to any questions that people might have about the plate, or like, I know we see a lot of plates posted in Facebook that we may not necessarily, now that we're members and like we've been practicing for a long time, you might see a plate and be like, no, is anybody gonna say anything about this plate? But we need to take into consideration, like, are they a member? They might not be. Are they listening to the feedback that they are getting? Some people aren't. And so there's only so much that we are going to be able to do without people feeling, you know, shamed, especially when they aren't members. They don't really understand. They don't really have like the support that we have as members. And so it's not hurting anyone for them to post some of the things that they post. But we know, and it's important to remember not to compare ourselves, especially when we know what we're supposed to be doing, not to compare ourselves to like plates that might be slipping through that are from non-members, because they don't have the support that we have. They don't have that extra like coach encouragement relationship behind the scenes where they're saying like, hey, that looked delicious, but I know that these are your goals. Let's kind of tweak it, or let's have a conversation about this, whatever it is. And so we can dive a lot deeper as members than like people that are just participating in the free group and trying to figure it out themselves. So I wanted to throw that out there too, because I know we see a lot of things that are like, well, she posted sausage and nobody said anything to her. Like, well, she's not a member. And like, you talk to your coach about it. Like, that's not bad. In fact, like Polska sausage, sauteed peppers and onions, and roasted potatoes used to be one of my like almost weekly meal prep things previous to the Fitme plate. And I still eat sausage, but that isn't, sausage is so much more processed than like a pork chop. You know, it's still a pork, but it's so much more processed. There's things added to it. It's not a whole food. And so that's kind of the distinction. And I remember that Christy, years ago when we talked about like, well, you know, is lunch meat okay? It's perfectly fine to have lunch meat. That's totally fine. But there's a spectrum of meat. So like on this end, you got like filet mignon, grass-fed filet mignon. Down here, you got like potted meat. There's a whole spectrum of meat of varying processedness. That's not a word, but of varying scale of processed meats. And so we want to lean more into things that are as minimally processed as possible, because they have less chemicals, they have less sodium, they have less like mystery foods added into them, that don't necessarily serve our bodies, that might cause inflammation, that might cause you to hold on to more water, that might, you know. And so getting closer to whole foods, like actually chicken that you buy and then season it yourself and do all the things. Does that mean that you can't have sausage? Absolutely not. It would just make it Fitme inspired. And does that mean that I don't eat lunch meat? Absolutely not. I totally eat lunch meat. And so it's just Fitme inspired, and there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, I'm gonna open it up. I'll shut up.
I was gonna say, when we first started the Fit Me Plate Challenge back in, I think it was like 2019 or 2020, right? I think it was 19. I started taking pictures of my plates, and I still take pictures, and I put them into a folder in my phone. And it's interesting to go back to the beginning to see what kind of plates I had. I had a lot of Fit Me inspired plates. I had a lot of sandwiches, a lot of tortillas. And but to me, from where I started, like you said, we had progress before the challenge started. And for me, I went from not ever eating lunches at work and eating a whole lot of everything when I got home. And so having those Fit Me inspired plates added in made a big difference too, because I was thinking about it. And I was eating food. Like, it wasn't always the best, but you know, there's been this evolution over time. And now when I make my Fit Me plates, I like doing like your typical Fit Me plate because there's no thought behind how am I going to make this meal. There's like no recipe. It's just put these things on your plate and there you go. It could be a combination of anything, and I don't have to think about recipes. It was always cooking was recipes and having to follow a recipe. And so that's why I like the Fit Me plate. It's so much easier to think about food that way.
I agree. I 100% agree. And I remember when I started the Fit Me plate, every single morning for breakfast, adding veggies to my breakfast was the hardest thing I had to do at first. And I was adding them in the form of like peppers and onions in my omelet in the morning. And it was delicious. It was great. But what I also had was a piece of toast every single day. And it was great. It was good quality bread. I got like the Oro wheat organic. It was like grains and seeds. It had all that was whole grain. And I remember like a couple weeks in, I had been posting plates with toast every morning, every single day. And at some point, I can't remember when we started like really getting more strict on like how to analyze people's plates for them and learning that. And I was like, hold up. Does that mean I can't have my freaking toast? And she was like, you can have it, but it's not really, because back then we didn't even have a Fit Me inspired. That like became a thing later. But it was just like, it doesn't count. And I was like, oh my God, what am I? My toast this whole time. And so, and I mean, like, is toast bad? No, it's not bad to have a piece of toast with your breakfast, and like that's your carb serving. It's just not a Fit Me plate, and that's okay. And I think that sometimes, especially at people that are coming in that only learn, like they learn the Fit Me plate before they learn anything else, they think that's like the thing. You have to have a Fit Me plate, or else you're like, it's a crap, it's bullshit, it's crap, but it's just not, that's just not true. But it's hard to know that when you haven't been there for like the evolution of like where it came from and like why it was a thing. And so do I still eat toast with my breakfast sometimes? Absolutely. But we know what I started eating instead of the toast was a baked sweet potato. I can bake a freaking tray full of sweet potatoes in an hour. I don't wash them. I don't even pierce them after Coach Leah changed my whole life by telling me I didn't have to pierce my damn sweet potatoes before I stuck them in the oven. And like, they're the easiest thing to meal prep ever. Line your baking sheet because they leak and they get like that sticky stuff comes out of them, and just throw them on a sheet pan and stick them in the oven at 425 for like 45 minutes. And they are the most delicious, soft sweet potatoes. And I just zap them in the microwave every morning for a minute and put that Flavor God buttery cinnamon roll seasoning and a little bit of butter on them. They're amazing. And so that became my breakfast carb. And it's just so easy to prep and so delicious. And I don't even miss having toast with my breakfast. But I mean, having sandwiches, having good quality bread with your sandwiches, it's all like, can I make this a little bit better? Always. Instead of having white bread with your sandwiches or wheat, have whole grain bread, have like a better quality hearty bread, or have a tortilla. And so there's nothing wrong with those carbs. We still want to like lean into like the least processed version of that as possible. But there's nothing wrong with having those things. You can still lose weight. You can still reach your goals. It's just Fit Me inspired. But yeah, I'm with Marlena. I hate recipes. Like, it stresses me out to like read a recipe. I'm always afraid I'm going to miss something or forget something. So I'm like, forget it. I can do it myself. That's why I hate baking. I hate baking because you have to follow the recipe like to the T or it's going to be effed up.
That's actually one of my biggest issues, as we raised 5 kids, right? So I cooked for an army every night, and I am so sick of cooking. I just don't want to cook anymore when I get home from work. So now I'm looking for like those super easy, quick, fast things that I can halfway prep and then finish when I get home, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that
Yeah.
too. Like I love rotisserie chickens. I live on microwave vegetables. I don't care who you are, what you do, like microwave veggies. I freaking love them. I always have broccoli and Brussels sprouts in my freezer, always. I ate frozen Brussels sprouts with my pork chop and baked potato today for dinner. Baked potatoes are another one. Super easy. You do have to pierce those, and I wash them because I like to eat the skin of like a regular baked potato. But I wash them and I rub them with olive oil and sprinkle salt on them and pierce them and then bake them in the oven. And again, it takes like 45 minutes, but it's so low labor, like no labor. There's like zero thing to do. You stick them in there, you can make like 10 at a time or more and throw them in gallon-sized bags and then microwave them all week. They're so good. They're so much better than when you just microwave them straight like for 5 minutes. Because you can do that. You can zap a baked potato in the microwave for 5 minutes, but the texture is so much better if you bake them first. And it's just easy. You can be doing 5 other things while you bake your potatoes. You just have to take them out. And microwave rice, that exists.
True.
And I will say that like look at your ingredients and the nutrition facts for your microwave rice, because there are several out there that look like they would be healthy, like wild rice medley, but they got a bunch of crap in them and like a ton of sodium. So look for ones that just have like rice, oil, and water. Because there's a bunch.
Yeah, I got to be careful with sodium.
Yeah,
I
me
fill
too.
up like a damn balloon.
Me too. My rings won't fit the next day. I get really swollen.
Oh yeah.
My feet swell. It's weird.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm very sensitive to sodium.
I food prep my rice. I make a big batch and then I put them in the little quart size freezer bags and stick them in the freezer. And then they warm the same as pre-cooked. You just
That's
do
a
it
good
90
idea.
90 seconds and it defrosts them. And so I do it that way. That way I don't have to, I do buy the pre-cooked bags for when I don't, want to cook a whole bunch of rice, but it doesn't take but 15 minutes. So
Yeah, it's not
Right.
long. I use a pressure cooker to do my rice and it doesn't take long. But I've never frozen it. I like the idea of freezing it
yeah,
and throwing it. That's good.
I just kind of lay them flat in the freezer and
Because I
really
have
easy.
wasted rice. Like it gets moldy if you let it sit for way too long, like 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Isn't
Don't
1
judge
week
me.
the limit on food?
It is. But the sniff test exists.
Oh my god.
I would never recommend anyone eat anything out of the fridge after a week, but I do it all the time.
Do you ever freeze it right before it's gonna go bad to give it a few more days? I've done that with chicken before.
Sometimes I do. I do it with meat because I'm less likely to waste meat because rice is so cheap, and maybe that's a terrible way to think about it. But yes, I have frozen meat where I'm like, this is like on its last legs. I need to put it in the freezer, for sure. And fun fact, if you don't know this, as far as like food safety, if you defrost meat, you have to cook it within 24 hours, and you can't refreeze it. Just throwing that out there.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know you had to cook it that fast. I don't think I do.
Well, technically you're supposed to cook it after it's fully defrosted. Okay. If it's still like frozen a little bit,
kind of frozen,
it can go a little bit, it can go a little bit longer. Oh, and if it's still partially like if it partially defrosts, and then you're like, oh crap, I don't want to eat this yet, and I'm definitely not going to cook it tomorrow, you can put it back in the freezer. As long as it's not fully defrosted, you can put it back in the freezer if it's still frozen a little bit. It's just not when it's fully defrosted. And something that I've done in the past, like if I knew, okay, crap, I defrosted this meat, I'm not gonna have time to cook it tomorrow, it's still frozen, I'll just put it in the crock pot and it'll just be shredded meat, whatever kind of meat it is. We could do a whole one of these on food safety.
Good.
Yeah.
Next time I lead this, we'll do food safety.
That would be helpful.
anybody have any other questions or like concerns about Fit Me plates, or why we try to just eat whole foods, or why the balance that we have?
The
I
only
think I
thing
get
I
them.
ever really kind of wonder about is the fat. Like I know you're supposed to add the fat, but I don't when I'm eating eggs. I mean, they're cooked in a little bit of fat, but I've always thought, well, there's enough fat in the yolks, or chicken thighs have more fat than chicken breasts, so I won't add extra fat.
Mhm.
Should I still be adding the fat?
I don't. That's a really, really good question. And I'm glad you asked that, because fat usually kind of takes care of itself. It's not one that I'm
Mhm.
like, unless I'm eating like chicken breast and plain rice and microwave vegetables, I'm like, this definitely needs fat. Like, I'm gonna add butter to these vegetables and rice. But like you were saying, like if you're eating like chicken thighs and eggs, and or you're cooking with a little bit of oil, or you put a little bit of butter on your potato, like I feel like fat kind of like, I'm much more likely to overeat fat personally, because I love fat. I mean, it tastes delicious, but my body also feels super good when I eat, when I don't restrict my fat. Um, and so I always kind of play with that. Like, since I am not in the weight loss season anymore, I always kind of like, well, what's my goal? What am I trying to do right now? Like, do I need a little bit more fat? I'm not as likely to pay as close attention. But no, I think I've heard Christy say this before too. I could be wrong. Um, but that fat kind of takes care of itself. Like it's usually like, usually are going to get enough from what you're cooking in or with. It doesn't necessarily need to be an intentional addition.
I've learned that fat is my favorite food group.
Yeah, that is so good.
I didn't realize.
I know. And it makes us feel so good. It's actually the slowest burning macronutrient. So it gives, like, that's why it's really important to have healthy fat in your diet, because it helps keep you satiated. And we as women need fat. I mean, men need fat too, but it's important for our bodies.
I definitely still feel hungry if I eat a meal and it doesn't have any fat. And it could
Yeah,
be a
Matika.
large meal and I'll
Mhm.
feel totally unsatisfied when I'm done.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'm the exact same way.
Same.
Yep. Fat's important. And that's why we like to eat all the food groups, but also paying attention to those like portion sizes. Like the hand method is in the plate guide, but like a palm size, this is just general rule of thumb. A palm size portion of our protein, you could do even a palm and a half. It's very unlikely that you will overeat protein. You would have to really try hard to overeat protein and vegetables. So I always like give that disclaimer. If you want more food, if you're still hungry, add some more protein and veggies, because you're not going to overdo it on those things. But then a fist of veggies, so about a cup. And a palm portion is like about 5 ounces, 4 to 6 ounces roughly. And then a cupped hand, or she uses a tennis ball size, but a cupped hand, about a half a cup of healthy carbs. And then your thumb, not my thumb, because my thumb's really little, but like a normal thumb size for healthy fats, which is about 2 tablespoons. So like dressing or butter, all those good things. And avocado. I love avocado, but that's one of those things. It's like I could really easily overdo it on avocado. I could eat my weight in guacamole. Like
Me too.
But like I have some really good tricks if you like avocado, how to save an avocado, like half of an avocado, so that it doesn't get nasty before you eat it the next day. Because I wouldn't eat more than half of a small avocado in a sitting. If you're trying to lose weight. What else? Anybody else have any questions or anything to add before we jump off? No. I'm so excited that I got to see you guys tonight. Thanks for jumping on here.
I was just thinking it's good to have you here,
I
Lauren.
miss you guys.
Yeah, you're half the reason I'm here. I'll just say half, but it's probably more than
Aw,
half.
thank you. That makes me feel good. Emmett's still gone, so it's easy. This is a hard time. Like, this is normally like bedtime for us. And so Emmett's still in Florida visiting our family. And so I was like, yeah, of course I can handle this. And I mean, like, I would jump on and do this call whenever she needed me to, but it was super easy tonight because Emmett's not here. So let me take our beautiful picture. You see our beautiful face. Raquel, I need you to make that face again. All right, y'all. Here we go. Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Awesome. I love you ladies so much. I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your week. If you have any questions about Fitme plates, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the coaches. We love talking about it. Always remember and I'm talking to people listening to, that it's any criticism or feedback that you get on your plates is just to have that conversation and create that awareness. It is not like telling you that you're worthless or that plate is bullshit. Love you guys. Have an awesome night.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.